Hello and welcome to the Indian Trails Library's YouTube channel. My name is Morgan and I am usually downstairs in the launch pad where we do kind of crafty, techie stuff. But today's program is going to be on making homemade, DIY, super customizable, luxurious lotion bars. So before we get started, I wanted to let you know that there are several links down in the description box below, and those will take you to the actual supply list that we'll be using, and that'll have just all of the stuff that you might need for this program, as well as a handful of links for essential oils, because that's an optional part of this program is using essential oils. You don't need to, so if you have some kind of like sensitivity or just prefer to keep it natural, don't even worry about it. But if you did want to have access to some kind of calculator on how to dilute the oils enough for the lotion bars that we're making, you'll find that below. In addition to that, you'll find links to our site as well as our program calendar. So please take a look at those. We have some super cool programs coming up. We'll have some guests. You'll recognize some of them, maybe not others, but we hope that you're enjoying all of the virtual stuff that we're able to do right now. All right, so let's get started, and we will start with the supplies. All right? See you in a sec. So here are the supplies that we'll be using for the lotion bar project that we'll be working on. I'll start over here. This is actually just a nice, bright, sunny, you can see it's covered in paint, but it's really just an inexpensive tablecloth. And that's because some of the stuff we'll be working with can be quite oily or sticky, tacky. But you certainly don't need an actual full-on tablecloth. Even just a long strip of parchment paper or tinfoil would totally work too, whatever works. Or if you've got a sturdy arts and crafts table and you don't mind that gets a little mucky, or it's just super easy to clean or whatever, you won't have to worry about that bit either. So then down here, what I have is just a regular, pretty large 2-quart size Pyrex bowl. I'm using this because the way that we'll be doing it is through the use of a microwave, much like we did with the Melt and Pour soap program, if any of you remember that. That was about 1.5 years ago. It's basically the same process. We just won't be working with soap base at all, as these are lotion bars and not soap bars. But as the supply list indicated, you can absolutely use a double boiler instead. So that would just be a pot with a couple inches of water, and then a sturdy, heat-safe metal or a glass bowl that can rest atop it, and some kind of cooktop, a stove, an induction cooktop, whatever. You just want to make sure that it's indirect heat and that you're using a bowl that you're all right with either only being able to use beeswax with in the future or go through the kind of annoying process of boiling water and melting the beeswax fully off again to get it off. That stuff is tacky and stubborn once it solidifies, so just keep that in mind. Next, we've got our silicone molds. These are what we'll be putting our finished melty concoction into to let set and dry completely. The silicone molds are super nice because when your product dries, you can just pop it out quite easily as the silicone is so flexible. We'll see what that looks like later. These were found on Amazon, very inexpensive. You can use most any kind of mold too. I'm using a larger bar this time around, but plenty of people use the smaller ones for, mini bars. They're nice for gifts or the like. Craft supply stores like Michael's or Joann's carry them. And then if you're trying to limit visits to stores, in person, which is totally understandable, we're still going through a raging pandemic, you can do shipping options, which, Michael's and Joann's do that, of course, but there are also other options like Brambleberry, which is a soap making supply company based out of Washington State. They'll have molds and almost all of the supplies, I think, actually, that we're using, and they're able to ship across the country. They have a lot of really cool projects and products on their site, so I would totally recommend checking them out. So the main ingredients that we'll be using, here we've got our huge tub of coconut oil. This can be found at almost any grocery store or superstore like Meijer, Target, Walmart. But remember, you can use several different types of oils for this project. Just think of the oils that are generally lauded for their skincare or skin safe benefits. Some examples would be like sweet almond oil, jojoba oil, grapeseed oil, sunflower seed oil, olive oil, rosehip seed oil. There are so many options. Most of the recipes that you'll come across will suggest coconut oil or sweet almond oil. I'm not totally sure why, but it seems likely that you might just have to tweak your measurements if you use some of the heavier, denser oils. I just have coconut oil on hand and I like it, so that's why I'm using it. But really use whatever you want. Just keep in mind that the measurements may be slightly different. Our next ingredient is cocoa butter. Excuse the packaging. Amazon doesn't care about aesthetics. But yes, cocoa butter pellets, which look a lot like those chocolate wafers that you melt down and use for desserts. And they smell amazing. They make these pellets out of shea butter and mango butter too. So if you prefer those, go for it. They can be found at places like Whole Foods or other health food stores that might have rarer, more specific items than regular grocery stores. Again, online stores like Brambleberry will have these items, although it's possible that they'd be in a more liquid or pasty form as opposed to the solid pellets, which just equals less melting time. So that's fine too. I do this for fun. I'm not an expert, so keep in mind that if you use the liquefied butters, it could affect the ratio or measurements of our ingredients as well. Next up is beeswax. These are just two different types of the same thing. One's got smaller pieces and they're just representative of the yellow or white variations that you can purchase. You can tell these on the left are quite a bit smaller, and that just means that it takes less time for them to melt. You see they're really small little pastilles, or pastilles, I guess they call them. And same as above, Amazon, Brambleberry, they're on sale right now at Brambleberry, so that's cool. And then places like Etsy and any and all candle making supply stores will 100% have beeswax pastilles or pellets. White or yellow are fine, doesn't really matter, totally your preference. So I just opened the wild cocoa butter so that we can see what they look like. And ooh, do they smell good. Smells kind of chocolatey, isn't that interesting? Corny, wink, wink. Anyway, as you can see, there's a pretty clear size difference with these pellets and pastilles. So something to keep in mind is that we'll be melting down the cocoa butter pellets and the beeswax together. So it may make more sense to use pellets and pastilles that are of a more similar size. Otherwise, what you can do, and what I'll probably be doing, is just start to melt the larger pellets first, and then add in the small pastilles once they start to melt, and then start mixing them together. That way, they should melt pretty evenly, and then we'll be doing 30-second intervals. Oop, making a mess, don't tell anybody. So our last set of ingredients here will be added before we pour the mixture into the molds, but after the melted concoction has cooled down just a bit. These are optional, but we've got vitamin E, which is just great for skin. But most of the other ingredients we're using are too, so that's why it's optional. The bars will be moisturizing on their own, even if you don't add vitamin E oil. I'm just doing it because I've got it on hand and I like vitamin E. So the reason I mentioned that we wait until the end to add the oils is that if we add them when they're too hot, our precious oils will just kind of dissipate and smell good while we mix, but won't end up as potently, if at all, in our final bars. So I've got some floral essential oils here, and at home I've got some others that are not so floral, so I'll use a mix maybe. But we'll pay special attention to how much we're putting in, because a lot of these oils must be diluted, as they can be dangerous and harmful to our skin and our pets if they're not. I have links to calculators and sites with general information about how to dilute oils, so take a peek in the description box below for those, please. These can be done with fragrance oils or essential oils. You'll want to use what you know is compatible with your skin or skin type. So obviously, if I have sensitive skin, I'm not going to use a bunch of super strong floral oils. That'll just give me a headache and a rash. So I know that when I get headaches, diluted peppermint oil seems to help me. So maybe I'd use peppermint oil in mine. Peppermint and eucalyptus can have that cooling smell and sensation, so that could be good for someone who knows their skin is okay with those plants/oils and who wants to use the lotion bar as like a soothing massage bar for muscle aches and pains. Another example would be jasmine and lavender. Those are great for calming me down, so I might use those. But I've got friends who are allergic to lavender, so obviously I'm never going to gift them a lotion bar that's got lavender in it. So just be careful with them, use common sense, and start slow. Remember, it's all about preference with these, so if you don't want additional fragrance, then just skip the oils altogether. That's what's so great about these kinds of projects in general, is that they're just so customizable. So this is the entirety of the materials/supplies we'll be using, which includes, of course, a trusty spatula or some other kind of mixer. And then, as mentioned earlier and in the supply list, we'll need a heat source. Again, I'll just be using the microwave. So let's get started. Okay, so here we are. We've got all of our supplies laid out. I have my little 1 cup measuring cup. That's what we'll be using, is basically 1 cup of the cocoa butter pellets, the same amount, so 1 cup of the beeswax, and then 1 cup of the coconut oil. So we're going to use the same parts of these, and then it's only with the vitamin E oil and the essential oils later that we're using that we'll use different amounts of, obviously, but as we said earlier, we'll do that after. So I'm just gonna have you watch me measure this stuff out, put it into the bowl, and then I'll take it over to the microwave and we'll do it in 30-second intervals, and I'll bring it back each time so that you can see how it starts to melt. We should have to do that a few times, so let's get started. Here we go. Okay. Oh, they smell so good. You see that? Okay. Good enough to eat. Okay. And actually you can. Do you see that? See, people use it in their keto diet things or something. I don't know. But they're edible. Which makes sense, right? Because they come from the cocoa tree. Okay, so I'm going to call that, we'll see how much this makes. We're going to call that a cup, right? So that goes in. I decided on using the larger ones because the bag was already getting torn up when we were going over the supply video. So, and they're actually also the ones that are closer in size as opposed to the other bag that was like teeny tiny. So let's measure out a cup of these, and then I will decide whether I want to put them in. Let me get this out of the way. Can't see anything. Okay, so then I'm gonna decide, I'll put them in here first, see how it comes out, and then I'll decide whether I want to do the cocoa butter on its own for 30 seconds or not. Let's see. I'm going a little over because the cocoa butter did too, and with the molds that I have, I wouldn't be surprised. Okay. So actually, I think I'm comfortable. Yeah. Let's just go ahead and add it in. Should be fine. It smells so good, let me tell you. Okay, and then the next step here is the coconut oil. Look at that. That's crazy. It smells amazing. Okay. So this is gonna be the real messy bit, huh? Oh, it doesn't even fit. Oh no. Okay, so let me get something else to scrape it out. Here's this trusty spatula. Good thing I have a tablecloth. Okay, so this is like too pliable. So I would almost use a big metal spoon. Or not metal, but some kind of sturdy spoon. Okay. I'm comfortable with that as 1 cup. Close that, get oily. Okay, and then we're gonna add it in here as well. So we've got the 3 main ingredients in the bowl. Just gonna try to kind of get those a little, because obviously the coconut oil is going to be the one that melts first. But again, we're doing 30-second intervals. So I will meet you back here, show you what that looks like in about 30 seconds. Alrighty, so I just took it out of the microwave and you can see already, yes, it is the coconut oil that has already started to melt, but that'll help get the other stuff melting too. So I'm gonna do a couple more 30-second intervals, and then we'll see what it looks like when these bigger pieces start to come down, okay? So see you in a moment. All right, so here it is at about 1 minute or 1 minute and 30 seconds, and it's still melting down, see? So you can still see the pellets and the pastilles. I keep calling them that. What are they? Pastilles. Okay, so they're still melting, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep stirring it, and then I'm gonna put it in for probably another minute, maybe a minute and a half. So that we get this into a fully liquid state. And at this point, if you're doing it the way that I'm doing it with a microwave, and actually for that matter, even if you're using the stove, you're going to want to get some kind of oven mitt or whatever, because obviously it's going to get hot. Okay, see you in about a minute. Alrighty, so it is totally liquidy now. It took several minutes to get to this, and I would almost maybe suggest putting in the pastilles first. Maybe the pastilles with the cocoa butter wafers with just maybe a half a cup of the coconut oil, and then as you go along, add the rest of it. Maybe, I don't think you really need to, but we need this to cool down just a little bit. As I said before, we put in the vitamin E oil and what I choose to do here, which I think I'm going to do, we had discussed, that's a little hot, so we're gonna be careful. But I had discussed the peppermint and eucalyptus. That's a super good mix if you're okay using those. And again, I will have links and all that for calculators for using essential oils and what you're doing. So because I'm using, let's see, 3 cups of different stuff that's now turned into liquid, that's telling me that if I want my essential oil blends to be at a certain percentage, so if I did like 3% or 5%, I would actually be doing 432 drops of essential oil into this entire container. That's a lot. Not going to be doing that. What you could do too, instead of dropping like each individual drop, is 432 drops of essential oil is about, what did it say? 1 teaspoon? Let's see, I have the converter right here. No, 4 teaspoons. Yeah, because it's a lot. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm just going to do about, because I want it to be a little bit mild, so that it's not too strong or potent. So I'll probably do about 15 to 30 drops of the jasmine, and then probably about 15-30 drops of the lavender. And then I'll probably just stick to that. Of course, we do have other blends, so if you have other blends that you know that you like the relaxation ones or that kind of thing, of course, feel free to use that too. So let's see how hot this is. Still super hot. You see it's totally liquidy now. So we're gonna let it cool just a little bit because I don't want to waste this vitamin E oil, and if I do, it'll just dissipate right away. Okay, I don't want to wait too long because if it starts to harden, then zoinks. Okay, so here are the molds. I had them hidden in back. So we're gonna mix in the, I'm trying to cool it down just a little bit. Vitamin E, we said we were gonna do 1 teaspoon of that. So look at this nice little crusty looking teaspoon. I'll fill that with the vitamin E oil. I think it should be cool enough now. Don't do what I just did. You could burn yourself. Let's see. I'm gonna start adding some oils then. Alrighty. So this stuff is awesome. It's probably in a lot of your lotions or body butters that you use and lip glosses too. And then I'm gonna do the drops of fragrance. Okay, so that was about 20, 25. That's fine. And then we'll do the same with the lavender. They actually have sites, and maybe I'll put this down below for you guys, sites that talk about what essential oils smell good together. So we could do that because I'm super interested on doing the eucalyptus, but that kind of overpowers everything. So maybe I shouldn't do that. Okay, I feel like I didn't do quite enough. All I smell is jasmine. So I'm gonna do a little bit more lavender. And then we can start pouring into the mold. I think I used a lot of this last time. Maybe that's why it's coming out more slowly. Yeah, there we go. All right, so regardless, that's not hundreds of drops, so we'll be fine. Not gonna break out in a rash or anything, unless you're allergic to any of these guys, in which case, please don't do that. Okay, beautifully mixed now, super liquidy. So now what we're carefully going to do, I'm gonna get everything out of the way because I can be rather klutzy. Okay. We're gonna take the mold. Let's see if I can get this centered. Is that about centered? Okay. Okay. Yeah, let's do that way. So we're just gonna pour right into these guys. Slow and steady wins the race. You don't want hot oils popping back up at you. Wow, okay, I was wondering if these were all gonna fit. And it looks like they do. Perfect. So here we are, and what we're gonna do is let these solidify a bit, which should take about 45 minutes to an hour at room temperature. Once they're a little bit more solid, around the 20-minute mark, you'll be able to move them. Just definitely do not try to move them when they're this liquidy and super likely to spill. So once they're more opaque and starting to solidify, you can carry the mold or tray over to the freezer or refrigerator to speed up the process. I'll be doing the latter and leaving them in there for several hours, as we did use a lot of oil. We'll take a peek at what they look like once they're done. And another optional thing that I did want to mention was that, as you can see, I didn't actually change the color of what we were working with just because I wanted it to be natural. And because unlike the soap bars, these are, you don't wash these off really. They're meant to be like lotion. So some people do use beetroot powder or turmeric, that kind of thing. And you could definitely do that if you wanted to color these a certain color shade. But I didn't this time. So those you can also find at all of the same places, Brambleberry, Amazon. Beetroot powder can be found at any health food store too. So if you want to play around with that, please do so. Okay, we'll see you when these are all solid and ready to use. All right, so here we are about 10, 15, 20 minutes in, and you can see that they're starting to get a solid. They're no longer see-through. That one, you can see it cracked a little bit, and the reason that that happened was because I did this to test how solid they were. I pulled on it just a little bit, and you can see it kind of comes out. But what happened when I did that the first time, this one was still a little loosey-goosey, and you can still kind of see it in the middle. It almost has a pool. So what you can do with these, now that they are movable, you want to be really super duper careful, but you will take the whole tray. When starting, you may want to actually just put the whole thing on a baking sheet. That way you won't have to lift something goofy like this. It'll just make your life a little bit easier. But what you'll do is take this and put it in the refrigerator or freezer. And then from there, it's only about an hour or two in the freezer and several hours to a full day in the refrigerator. You'll see why later. Do keep in mind that these have a lot of oils and butters in them, so if you do the refrigerator, it could take several hours for them to be totally solid. Hello friends, so I've zoomed in just a little bit, got our nice little bars here, and as you can probably tell from just the last shot, is that they kind of contracted a little bit, which is great because you see it'll make it easier to pop them out. So I'm going to do that, and I will tell you, I'm going to give you a fair warning. I did it a little bit early because, okay, now at this point they've been sitting in the fridge for 2 days, maybe 48 hours or so, something like that. But when I, of course, right after making them, I was like, you know what, let's, try 2 hours in and see what happens. So you will see that I made a little bit of a whoopsie because I was being impatient. So, this is some of these, you know how the other side of these had these that are kind of like for massaging or whatever. Some of those may not have stuck to the rest of the bar, but we will find out together, and it's going to be fun. Okay, so I'm just going to take, as we said before, the silicone molds are super pliable, easy to use. So I'm being not at all gentle with this. Okay, here I am because of what happened last time. But here we go, just kind of, bugger. Yep. There you go. So you can see the 3 inner ones, and this must be the one. This looks exactly like the one that I did 2 days ago on accident. Oops. But look at that. It's a nice little, you can already see the shininess on it. But, touching it, it's obviously it feels cold because it just came out of the refrigerator, but it doesn't really feel oily until you're hanging on to it like this for a few minutes. And then you get to, oh yeah, there it is. You see? So these little bits, so sad. Those are just whatever now. We don't care about you little guys. At least right now we don't. Oh, but look how cute. They're like little pellets of, you can make a bag out of that. Keep them in a Tic Tacs container in your purse. But they'd probably melt, let's be honest. Okay, let's take the next one out. And you know what? I can already tell that the fragrance is super duper mild. What I'm smelling right now is mostly just the cocoa butter. That cocoa butter smell, it almost smells like chocolate. So as if y'all remember, I would hope so. I'm the one that's doing this 2 days later. For you guys, it's like 30 seconds later. But what am I saying? For the oils, go ahead and use those calculators, and I would really trust those because I did, what did I do? Like altogether, probably 50 drops, and like you can barely smell them in these. That's me sniffing them. I get that faint jasmine smell, sure, but nowhere near what one would expect, you know. So, like any kind of lotion that you get anywhere else is going to be a lot stronger than that. And not strong like in a, oh, look, we got one, yay. Just that, you know, you don't want to waste your oils and then not be able to smell them in the finished product. I guess that's what I'm getting at. So I went super duper light on the oils. So maybe, you know, unless you're like me and you're just sensitive or stingy with your oils, go for it. I mean, I thought that several teaspoons sounded like way too much, but I guess it's the right amount. Okay, well, now that I've been handling the oils, now it's getting harder to get them out. Let's see, come on. At least this one, look at all the nubs all the nubs stayed on, I should say. Came out properly. So, okay, so I'm going to struggle with this for a little bit longer, but you can see what our finished products are like. My gosh. Yeah. These are whoo-hoo, a little hard to get out when you're covered in slick oil/lotion. Wash my hands, start again. There we go. Look at these beauties. They look so nice. And this one looks a little bit greasy because I've just been handling it. So you can see my hands are kind of greasy. So let me get a paper towel maybe, or should I just hack this one out? This is the one that had the little crack in it. So actually by the end of it, you can tell my cat's fur has gotten into it. Joy. So I'm not gifting these to any of my allergic friends, that's for certain. Hurrah! Excellent. So there you have it. Beautiful. Oh, and then you can, you know, make them nice and pose, give them out as treats. They are very moisturizing, let me tell you, and these are going to save our hands during this crazy pandemic we've got going on. So there are finished products. They're just slightly softer. Well, actually, they're not even soft. They've been in the fridge for days, so they're not soft at all. If I were to keep holding it like that, my body temperature would start melting it down, of course, as you can see, like I said, right? So you can always play around with the ratios that you use. But what you can do is put them in a mason jar container, something like that, an airtight container. Or if you're giving them away as gifts, you can always use, you know, these kinds of cutesy little papers, put them in there, or baggies, I guess they would be called. And then give them away as gifts. They make great gifts. So there we have it. And then as we learned, I'm going to repeat this because it's kind of important. Patience, I guess, as they say, is indeed a virtue. I checked even 2 hours after we had put them in the molds. See, look how that came out. It's fine. It'll go back to normal. And I did this damage to it. See? They didn't quite come out. So you may want to wait about, honestly, 24 to 48 hours until you push them back out. Otherwise, you could try to do kind of layers of it where you let it set, but then you'll have to worry about mixing the bowl to keep the rest of it liquidy enough. All right, so there you have it, beautiful bowls. I'll try to get some kind of aesthetic pic with these. Look how beautiful they came out. Lovely. And they smell so good. Oh, smell-o-vision, I wish it existed. Alrighty, and there you have it, luxurious lotion bars. I hope you enjoyed the program. I certainly did. I made a mess, and that's always fun. So, you know, and as I mentioned throughout the video a few times, please feel free to experiment with some of the measurements and ingredients that we used. So as we had seen with the one that I made, it was softer and more likely to become kind of oily once up against, you know, human temperature skin. But if you wanted yours to be a little bit more solid, where you had to heat it up instead and rub it with your hands, kind of like the ones that you would find at like Lush or something, you could always, you know, try a little bit more beeswax, a little bit less oil, something like that. So please do feel free to experiment with that. And remember, we did work with oils that are either liquid or kind of goopy. I'm looking at you, coconut oil, at room temperature. So with your finished bars, remember to keep them in a cool, dry place. Refrigerator is totally perfect. Well, I'm glad that we could do this simple, albeit messy program kind of together, you know, virtually. And I'll see you around here at the library with my mask on or at future programs. All right. If you enjoyed this video, please do give us a like down below. And of course, you can always subscribe to the library's YouTube channel for more content. All right. Thanks. See you around. Take care.